Valeria's hand throbbed, blood welling between her knuckles where Crystal had bit skin, but she barely felt it. She was too busy staring at the man who'd just backed her against the terrace railing, close enough that she could count his eyelashes, far enough that she couldn't knee him in the balls without telegraphing the move. Lee Dae-ho smiled. Not friendly, not warm. The kind of smile sharks probably made before they bit. "That's the second time you've tried to hit me tonight," he said. His English carried a Seoul accent that turned certain words sharp. "I'm starting to think you don't like me. I don't know you enough to dislike you." Valeria kept her voice steady even as her pulse hammered against her throat. "But give me 5 more minutes, I'm a fast learner." "Good. You'll need to be." He caught her bleeding hand before she could pull away, fingers wrapping around her wrist with enough pressure to make his point. Not hurting, just claiming. His thumb pressed against her racing pulse and something flickered behind those dark eyes. Satisfaction, maybe, that he could feel how badly he'd rattled her. "Let go." "No." "I'll scream." "Go ahead." He leaned in, mouth nearly brushing her ear. "Your father's inside celebrating a merger that just signed over everything he owns to me, including you. So scream all you want, Valeria. No one's coming to save you." Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel. Welcome to Afro K Stories by Ivy, Besties. If you are already hooked, kindly show your encouragement by hitting the like and subscribe button so you won't miss any of our dark romance stories. Trust me, besties, you don't want to. Now let's get back to the story. Valeria kneed him in the balls after all. He went down hard, gasping, and Valeria ran, through the terrace doors past business associates who barely glanced her way, down the hotel corridor until her heels hit elevator carpet. She stabbed the button 17 times like that would make it come faster. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Running won't help. Check your email. Then decide if you still want to run. L. D. H. Her hands shook as she opened the attachment. Photos loaded first. A factory engulfed in flames, smoke pouring into Seoul's night sky. Bodies covered in white sheets, lined up like cordwood. News articles in Korean and English, dated 15 years back. An investigation that went nowhere because someone with money had made sure it didn't. Then one photo that made her chest go tight. A family. Korean. The mother had kind eyes. The father wore glasses and looked like he laughed a lot. And a little boy, maybe 6, grinning at the camera with missing front teeth and a dinosaur shirt. The boy had Dae-ho's eyes. Below the photo, 23 dead. My parents. Your father's profit margin. Choose wisely, Miss Torres. The elevator dinged. Valeria stepped inside and threw up in the corner. 3 days later, her father called her into his study. Valeria had spent those 72 hours reading every file on the case she could find. Police reports with names redacted. Witness testimonies from survivors who'd crawled through bathroom windows. Safety inspection documents with her father's signature at the bottom. Approving cost cuts that removed fire extinguishers. Chained emergency exits. Reduced sprinkler coverage. 23 people had burned to death because Ricardo Torres, age 29, ambitious junior executive, had decided their lives were worth less than his quarterly bonus. Her father looked smaller somehow. Older, like he'd shrunk inside his expensive suit. You've read the files. Not a question. Every word. Then you know what Lee Dae-ho wants. Valeria waited. He wants you to marry him. The merger contract has a personal alliance clause, buried on page 47. I sign over Torres Industries and my daughter, or he releases everything to federal prosecutors. Her father poured whiskey with shaking hands. I told him to go to hell. Told him I'd fight him in court, that his so-called evidence wouldn't hold up, that... It's real, though. Valeria's voice came out flat. All of it. The chained exits, the falsified reports, the people who died screaming your name. He flinched. It was company policy. I was following orders from executives above me. That's not a defense. That's an excuse. Valeria, did you know? She stepped closer, and he actually backed up. When you signed those approvals, when you authorized chaining the exits, did you know people would die if something went wrong? Silence. Dad, did you know? I knew it was a risk. Each word looked like it cost him. But the probability seemed low. The insurance would have covered any incidents, and the cost savings were significant enough that— Stop, Valeria's stomach churned. Just stop talking. She turned to leave. If you don't marry him, I go to prison. Her father's voice cracked. 20 years minimum, maybe life. And Torres Industries collapses, your trust fund disappears, Ilara's college fund disappears. Everything we've built. Everything you built on corpses. I was 29. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Valeria looked back at him, this man who taught her to ride a bike and paid for her education and tucked her in at night, and saw a stranger. You chose money over lives, and you got away with it for 15 years. Maybe it's time to face consequences. And Ilara? She's 16. You'd let her future burn because of my mistakes? That stopped her. Ilara, baby sister, artist, dreamer, who cried during sad movies and wanted to study animation at CalArts, and had nothing to do with any of this. He's downstairs, her father said quietly. Lee Dae-ho, waiting to hear your answer. Of course he is. Valeria found him in the sitting room examining family photos like he was cataloguing evidence. He'd changed since the gala. Dark jeans, black sweater, hair slightly dishevelled. He looked younger, more human, which somehow made it worse. You need me pretty hard, he said without turning around. I've got a bruise shaped like your kneecap. Good, want another one? Not particularly. He set down the photo, Valeria at 8, gap-toothed and grinning, back when her father was just Dad, and not a murderer. Have you decided? You know I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. He turned finally, and his expression was unreadable. You can walk away. Let your father burn. Let your sister lose everything. But that's still a choice. You're a real piece of work. I've been called worse. He moved closer, and Valeria held her ground even though her instincts screamed run. I'll make this simple. Marry me. Play the devoted wife for cameras and business associates. In return, your father avoids prison and your sister keeps her future. The evidence disappears. And what do you get? Revenge. He said it simply. Every day for the rest of his miserable life. Your father has to live with the knowledge that his daughter belongs to the son of the people he murdered. That every smile you give me, every time you take my name, it's a reminder of what he did. I'd be your prisoner. You'd be my wife. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, maybe, or respect. You've got fire, I like that. Makes this more interesting. Glad my suffering entertains you. It doesn't. The mask slipped for just a second, and Valeria saw something raw underneath, grief so deep it had calcified into rage. This doesn't entertain me, Miss Torres. This is justice. Slow, painful, permanent justice. And you're the price he pays. I'm a person, not a bargaining chip. You're both. He pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. A diamond ring sat inside, beautiful and cold. 24 hours to decide. Marry me willingly, or I release everything and let the prosecutor shred your family. Your choice. He set the box on the table and walked toward the door. Why? Valeria called out. Why not just destroy him? Why drag me into this? Dae-ho paused, hand on the doorframe. Because prison is finite. He'd serve his time and walk free, but this? Watching his daughter tied to his worst nightmare? That's forever. That's real punishment. You're a monster. Yes. He didn't even try to deny it. But I'm a monster your father created. Remember that. Then he was gone. Valeria stood alone in that room, staring at the ring box, and knew she'd already made her decision. She'd wear his ring and take his name and play whatever part he needed. Because Ilara deserved better than watching their family implode on live television. Even if it meant Valeria's own destruction. If you're not already subscribed, do it now, because this marriage is about to get so much darker and you won't want to miss what happens next. The engagement lasted exactly 2 weeks. Dae-ho had everything planned with surgical precision. Small ceremony, minimal guests, maximum publicity. The press ate it up. Korean business mogul marries American heiress. International alliance sealed with romance. Romance. The word tasted like ash. Valeria barely saw him during those 14 days. He'd send cars to collect her for dress fittings and venue inspections, but he was never in them. Just instructions delivered through his assistant, Min Jun. Professional. Distant. Like she was a project to manage rather than a person he'd strong-armed into marriage. The few times they were forced together for photos, he played his part perfectly. Hand on her lower back, fingers intertwined with hers, leaning in to whisper things that looked intimate but were actually commands. Smile wider. Your father's watching from the bar. Tilt your head. The photographer needs a better angle. Try to look like you don't want to stab me. We're selling true love, mi cuervo. The nickname jarred her. My crow. She didn't know if it was an insult or something else entirely. Valeria smiled through gritted teeth and whispered back, "Call me that again, and I'll make your other ball match the bruised one." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "There's that fire. Good. I was worried you'd broken already." "I don't break easily. We'll see." The wedding came on a Tuesday. Small ceremony like he'd promised. Her father gave her away with trembling hands and tears that might have been real or might have been performance. Ilara stood as maid of honor, beautiful and furious in dusty rose, whispering, "We can still run," right up until the music started. But Valeria didn't run. She walked down that aisle in a dress that cost more than most cars, bouquet clutched in white-knuckled hands, and looked at the man waiting at the altar. Dae-ho looked wrecked, not cold, not blank. For just a moment as she approached, his mask cracked, and she saw devastation written across his face. His jaw worked like he was choking back words. His hands flexed at his sides. His eyes, those dark, furious eyes, looked almost desperate. Like this was killing him too. Then the moment passed, and he was ice again. They spoke vows that meant nothing, signed papers that meant everything. The officiant declared them married, and Dae-ho kissed her with all the passion of someone fulfilling a legal obligation. Brief, chaste. Over before she could process it. But his hand trembled slightly against her waist. She felt it, that tiny crack in his armor. "Smile," he murmured against her lips. "Your father's watching." So she smiled, and bit his lip, hard enough to taste copper. His eyes flashed, surprise, then heat, then something dangerous. "Careful, mi cuervo. You don't want to start a war you can't win." "Maybe I do." "Then you're braver than I thought, or stupider." "Both." She pulled back, still smiling for the cameras. "I'm both." Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or interest. They posed for photos, cut cake, danced a first dance where he held her like she might shatter. "You're shaking," Valeria observed. "I'm not." "Liar." She met his eyes. "What are you so afraid of?" "Nothing. Everyone's afraid of something." She let her fingers trail up his neck, feeling his pulse jump. "Even monsters." "Especially monsters." His grip on her waist tightened. "Because we know what we're capable of." "And what are you capable of?" "Terrible things, mi cuervo. Terrible things." But he held her gently anyway, like the contradiction didn't bother him at all. When the reception ended, they climbed into his town car in silence. The city blurred past, expensive buildings and bright lights that felt like they belonged to someone else's life. "Where are we going?" Valeria asked. "Home. My apartment is no longer yours. Your things were moved this afternoon. He stared out the window, jaw tight. You live with me now. You could have asked. I don't ask permission for what's already mine. I'm not yours. He turned then, and his expression was dark, possessive. You wear my ring. You took my name. You stood in front of witnesses and vowed yourself to me. You're mine in every way that matters. Legally, maybe. But you don't own me, Day-Ho. You never will. We'll see. Is that a threat? It's a promise. He leaned closer, invading her space. You can fight me all you want. I encourage it, actually. But at the end of the day, you'll still come home to my penthouse. Still sleep under my roof. Still answer to me. I don't answer to anyone. Defiant little crow. His thumb brushed her jaw. I'm going to enjoy breaking that spirit. Try it, she said, holding his eyes. They stared at each other, tension crackling like lightning. His eyes dropped to her mouth. Her breath hitched. For a second, she thought he might kiss her properly, not the chaste wedding kiss, but something real and dangerous. Then he pulled back, expression shuttering. We're here. Day-Ho's penthouse was exactly what she'd expected. Minimalist, modern, expensive and cold and completely devoid of personality. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. Designer furniture that looked uncomfortable. Art on the walls that probably cost a fortune, but said nothing. Like a hotel suite someone had forgotten to check out of. Your room is down the hall, Day-Ho said, already moving toward what must have been his own space. Bathroom's stocked. Closet has everything you need. Don't go into my office or bedroom without permission. So we're not, Valeria stopped. We're not sharing a room. Why would we? Because we're married. We're contracted. He finally looked at her and his expression was carefully blank. I don't need you in my bed, Valeria. Just in my life. Make appearances when required. Host dinners when I ask. Smile for cameras. Beyond that, you're free to do whatever you want within these walls. How generous. I thought so. He loosened his tie and for a second he looked exhausted. Actually exhausted, like he'd been running on fumes for days. There's food in the kitchen. Wi-Fi password is on the counter. Anything you need, ask Minjun. He'll handle it. And you? I'll be working. On your wedding night? This isn't a real wedding night. Something sharp entered his voice. This is a business arrangement. The sooner you accept that, the easier this gets. Good night, wife, he said, heading to his room. Good night, husband. She made the words sound like a curse. His laugh echoed down the hallway and Valeria realized with a jolt that she'd just declared war. On her wedding night. Against a man who'd spent 15 years planning revenge. This was either the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. Probably both. The first month was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Day-Ho maintained his distance, gone before dawn, home after midnight. But Valeria noticed things. Small things that didn't fit his cold persona. Coffee already made when she woke up. Exactly how she liked it, even though she'd never told him. The thermostat adjusted to the temperature she preferred. Books she'd mentioned wanting appearing on her nightstand. Her favourite snacks restocked in the kitchen. He was taking care of her while refusing to acknowledge her existence. So Valeria retaliated. She rearranged his meticulously organised books by colour instead of author. Left her coffee cups on his pristine counters. Played music too loud when she knew he was trying to work. Wore his shirts around the penthouse just to see his jaw tick when he noticed. He never commented. Just cleaned up after her with increasing frustration, jaw getting tighter each time. Good. Let him be frustrated. 3 weeks in, she pushed too far. Valeria found his office unlocked, first time in weeks, and curiosity won. She slipped inside, examining the space he'd forbidden her from entering. It was surprisingly warm. Books in Korean and English lined the shelves. A photo of his parents on the desk. Sheet music scattered across a piano in the corner. Chopin, she noticed. Complex pieces that would take hours to master. She was examining the sheet music when she heard him behind her. I told you not to come in here. Valeria turned slowly. Day-Ho stood in the doorway, still in his suit from work, expression thunderous. The door was open. That doesn't mean you're welcome. Nothing in this prison means I'm welcome. She set down the sheet music. But I'm here anyway. What are you going to do about it? You're testing my patience. Good. You've been testing mine for 3 weeks. She moved toward him, refusing to back down. You ignore me all day, then leave little care packages like I'm supposed to be grateful. You call me your wife in public and treat me like furniture in private, so forgive me if I'm not respecting your boundaries when you've trampled all over mine. I gave you everything. You gave me a cage. Her voice rose. A beautiful, expensive cage, but it's still a cage, Dae-ho. And I'm not a pet you can ignore until you need me for appearances. Then what do you want? Honesty. She was in his space now, close enough to see his pupils dilate. Stop pretending this is simple. Stop acting like you're made of ice. I've seen you crack. At the wedding, when you make my coffee, when you look at me like you're trying to solve a puzzle, so stop lying to both of us and admit that this is complicated. It's not complicated, but his voice was rough. You're the daughter of my parents' murderer. I married you for revenge. That's all this is. Liar. I'm not. Then why do you make my coffee? She grabbed his tie, pulling him down to her level. Why do you adjust the thermostat? Why do you buy me books and make sure I'm fed and comfortable? Why do you care, Dae-ho, if this is just revenge? I don't. Yes, you do. She was close enough to feel his breath. You care. And it's killing you. He grabbed her wrists, grip firm but not painful. You don't know what you're talking about. Then enlighten me. They stared at each other, breathing hard, the air between them electric. Then Dae-ho's control shattered. He kissed her like he'd been dying to. Not gentle, not careful, but desperate and hungry, and 15 years of buried emotion pouring out all at once. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her impossibly close. Valeria kissed back with equal fury, nails digging into his shoulders, giving as good as she got. When they broke apart, they were both shaking. This doesn't change anything, Dae-ho said, but his forehead rested against hers. I still hate your father. Still want revenge. Still, I know. She cut him off. I know, but stop pretending you don't feel this too. I can't feel this. His voice cracked. I can't want you. It's betrayal. It's weakness. It's human. She touched his face. It's human, Dae-ho, and maybe that's okay. It's not okay, but he didn't pull away. It's torture, because every time I look at you, I have to choose between the rage that's kept me alive and something new that might actually let me live. And I don't know how to do both. Then choose. She kissed him softly. Choose revenge or choose me. But stop torturing both of us with this middle ground. I can't choose you, he said it like an apology. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Then let me go. No. The word came out fierce, possessive. You're mine. Contract or not, revenge or not, you're mine and I'm not letting you go. You can't have it both ways. Watch me. He kissed her again, and this time it was slower, deeper, like he was memorizing the shape of her mouth. Valeria let herself drown in it, knowing this was probably a mistake but unable to care. When they finally pulled apart, Dae-ho's eyes were dark with want. Out, he said roughly. Get out before I do something we'll both regret. Like what? Like forgetting every reason I'm supposed to hate you. He stepped back, putting distance between them. Go, Valeria. Now. She went. But she felt his eyes on her back the entire way, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that everything had just changed. After that night, the distance became impossible to maintain. Dae-ho came home earlier, ate dinner with her, let her exist in his space without flinching. They talked about everything except the elephant in the room. His parents, her father, the revenge he'd promised. But the tension simmered underneath every conversation. Valeria learned that he played piano obsessively in the months after his parents died, that he'd built his entire empire as a middle finger to everyone who'd told him a traumatized 12-year-old would never amount to anything, that he hated crowds but forced himself into them because hiding felt like losing. Daeho learned that Valeria's mother had died when she was 19, that she'd spent years trying to be perfect because she thought it would fill the hole her mother left, that she'd never really believed she deserved happiness, which was why she'd accepted this marriage so easily. "That's heartbreaking," he said one night over takeout. "You know that, right? That you deserve happiness?" "Do I, though? I'm the daughter of a murderer. You're not responsible for his crimes. Neither were you, but you've spent 15 years punishing yourself anyway." He flinched. "That's different. How?" "Because—" He stopped. "I don't know, but it feels different. Maybe that's the problem." Valeria reached across the table, fingers brushing his. "Maybe we've both been punishing ourselves for things that weren't our fault, and maybe we could stop. Together." He laced their fingers together, and something in his expression softened. "You ask for impossible things, mi cuervo. And you deliver anyway." "Not always." But he held her hand through dinner, and when they moved to the couch afterward, he pulled her against his side like it was the most natural thing in the world. They fell asleep like that, Valeria curled into his warmth, Daeho's arm around her shoulders, and for the first time since the wedding, she felt safe. Drop a like if you're still with me, and comment below, can revenge and love coexist? Because things are about to get so much messier. 2 months in, Daeho finally let her into his bedroom. Not for sex, just to exist in his space, to sleep beside him instead of alone in her designated cage. The first night was awkward. They lay on opposite sides of the bed, careful not to touch, both pretending to sleep while hyper-aware of the other's presence. The second night, Valeria woke to find Daeho's arm around her waist, his face buried in her neck, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. The third night, she turned in his arms and kissed him awake. They made love slowly, carefully, like they were both afraid of breaking something fragile. Daeho touched her like she was precious, like she was the first good thing he'd allowed himself in years. Valeria gave herself to him completely, knowing this was probably a mistake but unable to stop. Afterward, they lay tangled together, skin against skin, hearts beating in sync. "I'm falling for you," Daeho whispered into the darkness, "and it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because loving you feels like betraying them," his voice cracked. "My parents, they died because of your father, and I'm here, in bed with his daughter, feeling things I have no right to feel." "They'd want you to be happy." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." She turned to face him. "Because parents who loved you wouldn't want you consumed by hate for 15 years. They'd want you to live, to heal, to find something worth living for." "I found something." He cupped her face. "I found you, and it's destroying me." She kissed him softly. "Just be here with me. Let yourself feel this, and when you're ready to decide, I'll still be here. Promise?" "Promise." He held her tighter, and Valeria felt him break, felt the careful control he'd maintained for months shatter like glass. "I love you," he said against her hair. "God help me, mi cuervo, I love you." "I love you too." Tears streamed down her face. "Even though this is impossible, even though you're probably going to break my heart, I love you anyway." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, knowing that morning would bring reality crashing back. But for one night, they could pretend the world outside didn't exist. The nightmare came a week later. Valeria woke to Daeho thrashing beside her, speaking rapid Korean, voice broken and desperate. She touched his shoulder gently. "Daeho, wake up. You're dreaming." He jerked awake, gasping, eyes wild. For a second, he didn't recognize her. Then awareness flooded back, and he collapsed against her, shaking. "What happened?" Valeria held him close. "What did you dream?" "The fire." His voice was hollow. "I always dream about the fire. But tonight my parents were there, standing in the flames, and they asked me—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "Asked you what?" "Nothing." He stood, grabbing clothes. "I woke up." "Daeho." I need to think. He was already dressed, heading for the door. I just need space. Don't shut me out. I'm not. I just need to figure this out. He left before she could argue. Valeria lay there in the dark, heart pounding, knowing something had just shifted. And not for the better. 3 days passed with no word from Dae-ho. He didn't come home. Didn't answer calls. Min-jun claimed he was at the office, working on something important. Valeria tried not to panic, tried to believe he just needed time to process, but she knew better. On the 4th day, she went to his office building, pushed past security, found him in his office, surrounded by papers, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "You can't just disappear on me," she said. "I needed space." "For 3 days? Without a word?" She moved closer. "What's going on, Dae-ho? Talk to me." "I submitted the evidence," he said it flatly, "to federal prosecutors. Your father's trial date is set for 2 months from now." The world tilted. "What? I couldn't—" His voice cracked. "I had the nightmare and I realized I was choosing wrong, choosing you over them, over justice. And I can't do that, Valeria. I can't betray their memory like that." "So you betrayed me instead?" Tears burned her eyes. "You told me you loved me. You said we'd figure this out together. And then, you just went ahead with your plan anyway? I'm sorry." "No, you're not." She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. "You're relieved. Because this way, you get to keep your rage and punish me at the same time. You get everything, and I lose everything." "That's not fair." "Fair?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "You want to talk about fair? You married me under false pretenses, made me love you, made me believe we could build something real. And then you destroyed it the second it got difficult, so don't talk to me about fair." "I didn't have a choice." "Yes, you did." She moved toward the door. "You chose revenge, and I hope it keeps you warm at night because I'm done." "Valeria, don't." She held up a hand. "Don't make this worse, just—" Her voice broke. "Just leave me alone." She left before he could see her cry. Valeria went back to the penthouse long enough to pack, grabbed clothes, her laptop, the few things that were actually hers. Min-jun found her in the bedroom, shoving things into a suitcase with shaking hands. "Mrs. Lee, don't call me that," she kept packing. "I'm not his wife, I'm his prisoner, and I'm done being imprisoned." "Where will you go?" "Ilara's. She's got an apartment now. I'll stay there until—" She stopped. "Until I figure out what the hell I'm doing." "Mr. Lee asked me to give you this." Min-jun held out an envelope. Valeria took it with numb fingers. Inside were divorce papers, already signed by Dae-ho, ready for her signature, and a note in his precise handwriting. "You were right. I chose to avenge my parents and seek justice too, and I don't have the right to keep you imprisoned because of my choice. Sign these. You're free. I'm sorry I couldn't be the man you deserved. D.H." Valeria stared at the papers, vision blurring. He was letting her go, giving her the choice he'd never given her before. She should have been relieved, should have signed immediately and run. Instead, she felt like her heart was being ripped out. "Tell him!" She stopped, swallowing hard. "Tell him I'll think about it." Then she left, dragging her suitcase behind her, leaving the penthouse and Dae-ho and everything they'd built together. If you're crying, I'm crying. Drop a like, ABD, subscribe right now if this hurt. And keep watching because this isn't the end. Ilara's apartment was small but warm. Colourful paintings covered the walls. Art supplies scattered across every surface. It felt lived in. Real. Nothing like Dae-ho's pristine penthouse. "You can stay as long as you need," Ilara said, setting up the couch with blankets and pillows. "I'm just glad you finally left that asshole." "He's not an asshole. Val, he sent Dad to trial after telling you he wouldn't. That's literally the definition of asshole." "Dad deserves to go to trial." Valeria sank onto the couch. "That's the part I can't argue with. He killed 23 people. He needs to face consequences." "But Dae-ho lied to you." "No, he didn't." She wiped her eyes. "He said he'd destroy Dad. I just assumed that meant emotional torture, not actual legal consequences. I heard what I wanted to hear. You're defending him. I'm being honest. Valeria pulled the blanket around herself. Dae-ho was always going to go through with this. His parents died in that fire. 23 people died. Dad needs to pay for that. I just wish he'd told me. Given me the choice before I fell in love with him. Do you still love him? Valeria closed her eyes. Yeah, which makes me an idiot. Not an idiot, just human. Ilara sat beside her. What are you going to do? I don't know. The divorce papers are in my bag. I could sign them. Walk away. Start over somewhere new. But Dad's trial starts in 2 months, and I need to be here for that. Need to see it through. She looked at her sister. I need to watch him face consequences. Does that make me a terrible daughter? It makes you honest. Ilara hugged her. And for what it's worth, I think Dad deserves whatever's coming. I'm just sorry you got caught in the crossfire. Valeria held her sister close and let herself cry properly for the first time in months. The weeks passed slowly. Valeria threw herself into work, photography projects she'd been putting off, gallery submissions, anything to keep her mind occupied. She didn't answer Dae-ho's calls, didn't respond to his texts, just existed in this strange limbo, waiting for the trial to start. Min-jun visited once, bringing boxes of her things she'd left behind. Mr. Lee wanted you to have these, he said, setting them in Ilara's living room, and he asked me to tell you. He paused. He's not doing well. Good. The word came out bitter. Mrs. Lee, I'm not Mrs. Lee anymore, or I won't be, as soon as I sign those papers. You haven't signed them yet, Min-jun observed quietly. It's been 3 weeks. Why not? I don't know. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Maybe I'm a masochist. Maybe I'm still hoping he'll... She stopped. It doesn't matter. I'll sign them. Eventually. I think he misses you, hasn't slept in the bedroom since you left, works 18-hour days and comes home to an empty penthouse and just... exists. He's a ghost. He chose that. He chose justice. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Valeria turned away. Tell him to stop sending you. I don't want updates. I don't want to know how he's doing. I just want to be left alone until the trial. Min-jun left quietly, and Valeria pretended the news that Dae-ho was suffering didn't make her chest ache. 6 weeks after she left, the trial began. Valeria sat in the back of the courtroom, Ilara beside her, and watched her father face justice. Watched the prosecutors lay out 15 years of evidence. Watched survivors testify about that night. The smoke, the flames, the chained exits that turned the factory into a death trap. Dae-ho sat in the front row. He didn't look back once, didn't acknowledge her presence. Just sat there with perfect posture, watching his revenge unfold. On the 3rd day of testimony, a woman took the stand, Kim Min-seo's sister, Dae-ho's aunt. She spoke about her sister, kind, funny, who loved terrible dramas and sang off-key. About her brother-in-law who told awful jokes and wore glasses and laughed too much. About the nephew she'd tried to raise after they died, who'd been too broken to accept comfort. He was 12, she said, voice cracking. 12 years old and so angry. At the world, at God, at himself for surviving when they didn't. I tried to help him, but he wouldn't let anyone in. Just built walls and filled them with rage. She looked directly at Dae-ho. I thought the revenge would heal him. Thought if he got justice, he'd finally be able to move on. But looking at him now... She shook her head. He's still that broken 12-year-old. Still so angry. And I don't think punishing Ricardo Torres is going to fix that. Dae-ho's jaw clenched, but he didn't respond. The testimony continued. More survivors, more evidence, more proof that Ricardo Torres had valued profit over lives. On day 7, her father took the stand. Valeria watched him crumble under questioning. Watched him try to deflect blame, make excuses, minimize his role. Watched the prosecutors shred every defense. And she felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just a hollow acceptance that this was necessary. After court adjourned, she waited outside until Dae-ho emerged. He stopped when he saw her, expression carefully blank. "Valeria, we need to talk." He nodded, following her to a quiet corner of the courthouse. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. "I'm not signing the papers," Valeria said finally. His eyes widened. "What?" "I'm not signing them. Not yet." She crossed her arms. "I needed time to figure out how I felt about all this. About you. And I'm still angry. Still hurt. Still can't believe you went ahead with the trial without telling me." She met his eyes. "But I also watched 7 days of testimony, saw the evidence, heard from survivors, and I realized something." "What?" "Maybe Dad deserves this. He deserves prison." Her voice shook. "And you were right to make sure it happened, even if the way you did it hurt me." "I'm sorry. Let me finish." She held up a hand. "I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not saying we can just go back to how things were. But I understand why you did it, and I don't hate you for it." "You should." "Probably." She managed a broken smile. "But I don't. I need to know if this was only about revenge, if I was only ever a tool to hurt my father, or if what we had was real." Dae-ho stared at her for a long moment. Then he closed the distance between them, cupping her face in both hands. "It was real," he said fiercely. "Every moment, every conversation, every time I held you. It was real, Valeria. You weren't a tool. You were our everything." "Then why did you push me away?" "Because I was terrified," his voice cracked. "Terrified of choosing you over their memory. Terrified of letting go of the rage that's kept me alive. Terrified that if I stopped being angry, there'd be nothing left." He rested his forehead against hers. "So I chose revenge because it felt safer than choosing you. And I've regretted it every second since you walked out. The trial's almost over. Dad's going to prison. You're getting everything you wanted." "Except you?" His thumb traced her cheekbone. "And it turns out you're the only thing I actually wanted." Valeria's throat tightened. "What happens now?" "That's up to you." He pulled back slightly. "I gave you the divorce papers because I didn't have the right to keep you. Still don't. You're free to walk away. Free to start over without me. I won't fight it. And if I don't want to walk away, then I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you." His eyes were desperate. "I'll be better. Do better. Choose you every single day instead of the rage, if you'll give me another chance. I don't know if I can trust you again. I know, and I'll earn it back, however long it takes." They stood there in the courthouse hallway, the sounds of people muffling around them, and Valeria felt something shift in her chest. "I need time," she said finally. "I need to see this trial through. See Dad sentenced, try to sort my sister and make sure this doesn't affect her and process everything. And then maybe we can talk about trying again." "I'll wait," he said it simply. "However long you need. I'll wait. Even if it's months, years, even then." He kissed her forehead. "You're worth waiting for, mi cuervo." The nickname made her chest ache. "I missed that. You calling me that." The verdict came 2 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. 25 years minimum. Ricardo Torres collapsed when the judge read the sentence. Ilara sobbed quietly, and Valeria just sat there, watching her father being led away in handcuffs, trying not to cry. Dae-ho found her after, standing outside the courthouse in the rain. "It's done," he said quietly. "Yeah." She wiped her eyes. "Are you okay?" "I don't know. Ask me in a year." She looked at him. "Are you? Is this what you wanted?" "I wanted justice, and I got it." He stared at his hands. "But it doesn't feel the way I thought it would. Doesn't feel like victory. Just hollow." Revenge usually does. Comment below. Would you give him a second chance? Let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe. We're almost at the end. 1 month later, Valeria showed up at the penthouse. Min Jun opened the door, surprise flickering across his face. Mrs. Lee. Is he home? In his office, playing piano. He's been doing that a lot since... Minjun stopped. Since you left. Valeria followed the sound of music down the hallway, found Dae-ho at his piano, eyes closed, playing something beautiful and sad that made her chest ache. He stopped, then looked at her, Valeria. He stood quickly, almost knocking over the bench. You're here. I'm here. She moved into the room. I realized something. Dad deserved to go to prison. You deserve to get justice for your parents, and I deserve to make my own choice about whether to stay or go. She crossed to him. You gave me that choice with the divorce papers. Let me go when you could have forced me to stay. That meant something. It meant I love you more than my pride. I know. She touched his face. And that's why I'm here. Not because I've forgiven everything. Not because this is easy. But because I want to try. Want to see if we can build something real now that the revenge is over. Are you sure? No. But I'm choosing it anyway. She kissed him softly. I'm choosing you, Dae-ho. Even though you're broken and complicated and still have a lot of healing to do. I'm choosing us. He crushed her against him, face buried in her neck, and she felt him shaking. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for coming back, mi Cuervo. Don't make me regret it. I won't. I swear I won't. He pulled back, cupping her face. I love you, mi Cuervo. More than revenge, more than rage, more than anything. I love you too. She smiled through tears. Her eyes lingered on the Roman numerals at his neck. She hesitated. That date. I have always wanted to ask, what does it mean? His jaw tightened slightly. The day my parents died. The words landed flat, final. I got it after, he said, voice stripped of emotion. When the house was empty, when I couldn't sleep, I needed something that wouldn't leave. She didn't touch him this time, just stayed close. It's not a memory, he added. It's a weight. I carry it so I don't forget what it cost to survive. Silence followed, and she realized the tattoo wasn't about the past. It was about what he became afterward. Afterwards, he kissed her like he'd been starving for it, like she was air and he'd been underwater, like she was home and he'd been lost. When they finally broke apart, Valeria was breathless and smiling and feeling something like hope bloom in her chest. Take me to bed, she said. Are you sure? Very sure. She pulled him toward the bedroom. We have months of separation to make up for. They made love slowly, reverently, like they were rediscovering each other. Dae-ho touched her like she was precious. Valeria gave herself completely, holding nothing back. Afterward, they lay tangled together, skin against skin, hearts beating in sync. I'm never letting you go again, Dae-ho murmured against her hair. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise, she kissed his chest. We're in this together now, for real. No more secrets, no more revenge, just us. Just us, he echoed. I like the sound of that. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, knowing the healing would take time. That trust had to be rebuilt, that they'd both made mistakes, but they had each other. And this time, it was a choice. Not forced, not revenge, just love. Complicated, messy, hard-won love, and somehow that made it real. Months turned into years, and through it all, Valeria and Dae-ho held on to each other. It wasn't perfect. They fought. Dae-ho still had nightmares about the fire. Valeria still struggled with guilt. They went to therapy, individual and couples, worked through trauma that ran bone deep, but they worked through it together. Do you think your parents would approve? Valeria asked one night, years after the trial, lying in bed watching snow fall outside their window. Of you? Dae-ho pulled her closer. My mother would have loved you, would have said I didn't deserve someone so kind. And your father? My father would have said that vengeance makes poor foundation for a marriage. Then he would have seen how I look at you and known it became something else along the way. He kissed her temple. They wanted me to be happy, Valeria. even if happiness came from an unexpected source. I wish I could have met them. So do I. His voice went rough. So do I. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, hearts beating in sync. And somewhere, maybe two souls who died in fire looked down at their son and the daughter of their killer, and they smiled. Because love, real love, the kind that survives tragedy and chooses forgiveness over bitterness, that's the truest form of justice. Not revenge, not punishment. Just two broken people deciding to heal together. They'd married for revenge and found redemption. And somehow, that was enough. That was everything. Thank you for watching this story unfold. Drop a like if it destroyed you in the best way. Comment below. Do you believe revenge can turn into love? And hit that subscribe button because your support makes these stories possible. See you in the next story, besties.